Good morning. Welcome to Sacred Enzyme. I'm Stacy. I hope you're doing well today. I want to talk to you a little bit about Atlantis because you know I love me some Atlantis. I wonder if I'm getting some of these Atlantis things from my brother, my younger brother that passed away 4 years ago. You know, it was interesting because he loved to fish, and his absolute favorite place was Bimini. And he used to love to go fishing at Bimini. I mean, that was just like his place. And it's interesting because, you know, that's where Atlantis is. Part of Atlantis is underneath Bimini Road. And I want to talk a little bit about Atlantis because I want to share with you this graph that is from Robert Sepehr. Sepehr is how you say it. But I want you guys to look him up because he has some interesting work, especially on Atlantis. So he has mapped out, he's an anthropologist, and so this is what they specialize in, and he's mapped out the origin of the Indo-European languages. And it starts here with the Hittites, which was 9,000 years ago. You know, the Hittites, they were kind of written out of history if you go back and look. You know, the Hittites were kind of scrubbed, but you have this next level, which is Tocharian. Tocharian. That sounds a lot like Tartarian, doesn't it? Oh, well, we got Aryan at the end, right? Tocharian, A and B, Arian. These Aryan people were the people from Atlantis. They were settled all around this world, and they had the first Proto-Indo-European language. They had a high level of civilization and technology. They were left over from the cataclysms because this was a whole continental event. And, you know, I think that Noah is a descendant from Atlantis. I do. And this is why they say that Noah repopulated the world, because he was a survivor from Atlantis. And he was one of these important people at the time. He was, you know, and he had his 3 sons, that everyone comes from one of these lines. So I found this when I was looking up Atlantis, and I tried to print this thing like 10 times, and do you know it would not print? So this is like the 5th attempt, and I didn't even get all the stuff that I wanted to share. But you guys can tell me if you want to hear more about this. But this is the story of a lost civilization of Atlantis. Is it rediscovered or a work of the imagination? So this is what it's saying about this book, is that this was originally delivered to this man's doorstep in the original tongue of the Atlantean language. It was as a handwritten document in a package on my doorstep. That much I know to be fact. Yet the history itself appears to be the work of an author describing the archaeological and literal discoveries about Atlantis and neighboring countries found beneath the Sahara Desert. Is this truth? And if so, how can it be, as we know of no such discoveries being made in our world? Is it a document I have somehow received from the future, or perhaps from an alternate timeline? Or is it a long intervention by the unknown writer? So he reproduced these, and he talks about the story of Atlantis and her empire. From earliest times to her final demise. Start with the discovery of Atlantis, which also includes the story of her pre-imperial history. Then move on to the first empire. And so all the links are here. And so it's called History of Atlantis and the Atlantean Empire. So basically, they lived in a democracy. They were technologically advanced. A lot of the things I see parallel with the societies that we have today. And what I thought was the interesting thing was that Zoroastrianism is like one of the religions that split off from this. And that was one of the things that I wanted to mention about, was that Zoroastrian fire. I'm starting to think that these churches that we had around here that are missing the bells, it was not actually 4 bells. It was actually where they were burning the sacred fire, because they kept this fire going. And this fire had to do with your divine fire. The fire represents the human. And it also, in the fire, Well, not only is the fire considered sacred because it is a representation of your sex organs. And see, this is why we had all the phallus worship, because they lost the knowledge, and then the knowledge that they had was being gatekeepers. You had these gatekeepers that were making you get into these initiations that were perverse. They were perverse. It was, you know, and they were using them for power. But this knowledge was for everyone, and everyone lived in this type of equality society, and it wasn't about sex. It wasn't about sex. That's what it turned into. But they would tell you that your seeds, that's your life force. That's your life force. That's why a lot of boxers and stuff, they don't have sex before they have a fight. They practice semen retention. And I know it sounds a little graphic, but the way that they would vitalize themselves was from this technique that they call today edging. They didn't release their seed, because if you kept it in, you could transmute it up into your crown and it would restore your vitality. So now we're getting into a lot of things that have to do with the tree of life, the fountain of youth, and I mean, all this stuff. See, they'd lost the knowledge, and they were getting it all wrong. Just like the Bible has, you know, there's a lot of teachings in there, but there's a lot of stuff in there that's been manipulated. You know, why aren't all the books in the Bible? Why is this? I mean, seriously. Why is there missing texts? Why are we finding these hidden Gnostic texts? Why wasn't all this stuff made available to us? Right, it's a matter of population control. It's the whole reason that they don't want to hear about mud fossils. They don't want to hear about giant remains, because it's going to bring up a very unwelcomed reality and conversation about, well, why is it that we're living this way if it once was this way, right? Exactly. You know, they have Plutarch has interesting stuff. I mean, if you can get a hold of his books, he has some very interesting details in there. You just got to know how to read it. But, you know, Plutarch said 2,600 years ago there were Grecian navigators here, but they were here. They were leftover Atlanteans. The Atlanteans ended up in Greece. They ended up all around the Mediterranean basin, like we've talked about over and over again. It happened. And, you know, the other thing I might want to mention is that, you know, we've got to go back and talk about Germany. We got to go talk about Germany, because, you know, a lot of these people that were part of the Atlantis culture, they ended up in Germany, and that's where you have that whole Hallstatt culture with the Celts that were come out of there. You know, all these people were intermarried. They'd all lived in a society together, and, you know, so you've got a long line of people, and they ended up in Iberia, right by the Strait of Gibraltar, where you had the Pillars of Hercules. You know, that's where these Atlantean people ended up at the end. But then, you know, it happened again. You know, these people couldn't get a break. They honestly couldn't get a break. So the question is, you know, is this story real, and are we going to explore it more? I mean, I think it's worth looking at least. Let's see if we can figure out what the downfall was of Atlantis from these different stories and snippets that we take from here and there. And, you know, just going from Edgar Cayce's readings was the first thing that got me started on that, because my grandmother always loved Edgar Cayce. And, you know, she was a spiritualist, and so I was raised that way since I was young. So I've always been the weird one. So yeah, what do you think about this? Is Tocharian, Aryan, Tartarian? The Tartarian people were leftover Atlantean people, and they ended up in Southeast Asia. That's what the Han dynasty was, is that they were Tartars. And, you know, Genghis Khan, he was depicted wrong. He was a red-haired white guy. I mean, it's just, he wasn't Asian. But, you know, these people came out of Southeast Asia. They came out of Southeast Asia, these leftover Atlantean people. They came out of Southeast Asia. Not saying anybody's more superior to another. They just were around a lot longer. They had more information. See, knowledge is where you got to know. If you don't have the gnosis, then you're never going to know. See, this is what life is all about, is learning. You get it? It's not about somebody being superior to another because this happened to them or that. You know, everybody's had their time at the end of the ladder and you got their face stomped in. We've just been here life after life. We're all here this time around because we got to get it right. That's all there is to it. We got to bring back a new civilization. Everybody needs to have the information. So I want to show you that I ordered this book, and I'm going to do a book series on this. It's called The Celtic Golden Dawn. And this is a curriculum of Druid activity from the Druids, from the Celts. And, you know, I think that the study in the Celts is going to be the best way that we're going to learn truly about Atlantis, especially the way that they were involved with the planet and the energy. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. It's been 11 minutes, so I hope that you found that little tidbit interesting, you know. So when you come and find me, I'll be here, because we're living the past, present, and future all at the same time. So go outside today, put your feet in the grass, and set your intentions for today and say, it's going to be a beautiful day. And thanks for watching on Sacred Enzyme, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.